So I'm going to be reviewing Invincible Season 4, Episode 5, and to be honest with you, I did not like this episode that much. The first half of this episode was just very unpleasant to watch, but I will give the episode some credit. The second half of this episode is a lot more interesting to watch, and it made the episode go from bad to just okay. And this is coming after the atrocious Episode 4, which was so bad that I didn't even bother making a video on it, because on top of it being an incredibly boring story with plenty of unfunny jokes and cringe characters, it also had plenty of satanic propaganda in it, so that episode was just irredeemably trash. So if you do think about it, they did improve the quality of this episode at least, but I mean that's a pretty low bar. But I'm just gonna go through the synopsis of this episode so you can really see what I'm talking about. So the episode starts out with Nolan and Alan coming to Earth to tell Invincible that he's needed in the Viltrumite War if they want a chance of winning it. And Mark is surprisingly receptive to Nolan's message and he ends up agreeing to go. And after Nolan and Mark have a conversation, Nolan tells Mark that he wants to update Debbie about what's happened to him and how he wants to apologize. And Mark tries to discourage him from doing it, but Nolan decides to do it anyways. So he ends up walking towards Debbie's house, and the suspense is crazy since they haven't seen each other since he had that huge fight with Invincible in season 1. So yeah, he walks up to the door and he's about to open it until he changes his mind at the last minute, and he's about to walk away when the door opens and it's shown that Debbie opened the door. So then Omni-Man feels like he has no choice but to go inside now. So when Nolan finally goes into the house, I really had no idea what to expect. I was hoping this whole season that they would get back together so that the original family could be together again. So Nolan goes in the house and he doesn't really know what to say, so he just tells Debbie that he's changed and he's very sorry for what he's done, and he's gonna try his best to make everything right and to repair everything that he's messed up. And to my disappointment, Debbie does not forgive him at all, not even a little bit, and she starts spurging out and calling him names and hating on our hero, which is just really sad to watch, I gotta be honest. And all of her arguments are mostly emotional based and not really based in any logic, but I mean I can understand why she feels that way, especially after all the crazy stuff that Omni-Man did in the past. But I gotta admit, it is frustrating seeing Debbie slander Nolan, even though he's done a lot of good in the past and he's continuing to do a lot of good for the universe now too. But it's pretty obvious that Debbie doesn't really care about that, because she gets mad at him for apologizing, and then she gets mad that he's trying to make it right all because he did some evil in the past. And then she's mad that he's trying to beat the Viltrumites, his own people by the way, with the help of Invincible, even though the alternative is just to lose the war and then the Viltrumites just come to Earth and take over everyone easily. So it was pretty clear that she wasn't really making any sense, but since she's been through a lot, at least it was understandable. And looking back on it, I can't really say that I'm surprised that they decided to go with this storyline over the original storyline from the comics, because if you didn't already know, in the comics Debbie actually forgives him and they get back together. So them deciding to retcon this storyline was definitely a confusing decision, but I think it's pretty obvious why they did that. Obviously Invincible has a majority normie / casual audience, whatever you want to call them, and these people don't really know or care about the comics, so the writers probably knew that people wouldn't really receive it well if Nolan immediately got back together with Debbie, especially after all the history that they built up with Paul. And in this day and age, I know it especially wouldn't go over with the older woman empowerment demographic, who are already saying that it would completely ruin Debbie's character to take Nolan back, so I'm guessing that's why they changed it as well. And these are both very cringe reasons to change the comic, but it's a mainstream TV show, so what can you really expect? I wish they kept the original comic storyline so the original family could be back together. That season 1 era where all the Graysons were there and Paul was nowhere to be seen, that's when the show was at its best, I'm telling you. But appealing to the mass modern audience will always make more money than actually making a good story, which is just an unfortunate truth we all have to accept. So in the end, she just tells him to leave and never come back, and it's crazy how he's treated by everyone in the show as if he's not doing the most good for the universe currently. And when you take into account Omni-Man's past, it really goes to show how good of a person he actually is, because he was indoctrinated since birth for 8,000 years to be a killing machine and to never care about anyone. And on top of that, if he ever dared to think or do otherwise, he would have to face the punishment of ostracization, shame, and execution. But despite all of that, in the span of 20 years, he developed his ability to care for others, and he defied his empire when he had everything to lose, which was like 1% of his life, by the way. And after he sacrificed everything, everyone he loved still hated him. So he really got punished for being one of the few Viltrumites to actually turn good despite their environment, which is very sad and made this episode very unpleasant to watch. So after talking to Debbie, he talks to the guy who makes all the costumes for the Graysons, and I'm pretty sure that was one of Nolan's original friends when he came to Earth, and he's conversating with him, telling him all the things that are on his mind. And Nolan tries to apologize and plant the seeds of making amends, but the costume guy is acting totally different as if he never knew Nolan, and he tells Nolan that he's never gonna make a costume for him again because he only makes suits for heroes, whatever that means. This was a huge L, and it made me not like this episode even more, because why are they putting Omni-Man through a humiliation ritual? It was really sad to watch, and hopefully they come around, because if not, it's gonna make this show practically unwatchable. The day that Omni-Man dies is the day that I'm not gonna watch this show anymore. So I forgot to mention this, but what's funny about this scene with Nolan and the costume guy is that they were trying to show that he was scared for his life during the convo because he was hyperventilating after their encounter, but it didn't really make any sense, because if he was actually scared, he wouldn't have taken a dig at Nolan's character and slandered him. He had the audacity to say that Nolan wasn't a hero, which is crazy considering that he's one of the main reasons why Earth is still intact. The Nolan hate in this episode was so cringe. The anti-forgiveness and moral superiority sentiment of this episode is so leftist coded, because they are very similar in that they love to act like they're better than other people without knowing their situation, and they also love to cancel and be outraged at anyone that doesn't meet their own criteria for what's morally acceptable. And their criteria is always ambiguous, ever-changing, and subjective, so it's never actually set in stone what's actually moral. It's always based in feelings and vibes instead of objective truth. The episode keeps reinforcing these themes though, which was very annoying to watch. After Nolan's conversations, it shifts to Oliver and Mark saying their goodbyes before leaving for the big Viltrumite battle, and Eve still hasn't told Mark that she's pregnant, by the way. So Omni-Man, Oliver, Mark, and Alan all leave for the ship, and the trip to the Viltrum Empire takes a really long time, so they have a lot of downtime to do whatever they want. And while they're on the ship, Mark and Nolan get into an argument where Mark gets mad at Omni-Man for wanting Oliver to stay home, and he also gets called selfish for not visiting Oliver after he just got called selfish for trying to visit Debbie. Dude, you cannot make this up. The moral goalpost keeps moving. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention that there's this new character called Tech Jacket that's introduced in this episode, and she's recruited to help fight in the Viltrumite War, because in the comics, the original Tech Jacket was actually a guy. His name was Zach, and he had a whole story arc in the comics too, but they decided that the show adaptation would be better if Tech Jacket was turned into a girl for some reason, which I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, though it seems pretty clear that in the show her role is gonna be Oliver's love interest, which you're telling me that they gender swapped the original Tech Jacket in his character arc just so she could be a love interest for Oliver. That's just very funny, and I can't believe they did that. I don't even know that much about the comics, but even I find that very sad that they did that. So they're just hanging out on the ship, and Nolan goes to get some food, and it shows a flashback of Nolan and Debbie together on a date night, and I don't know why they keep doing that. It's like they're taunting the audience that they'll never be back together. But yeah, that flashback really sucked, especially after the conversation that just happened. This is when the episode finally starts to get interesting. So Tech Jacket, Alan, Nolan, Mark, and Oliver all accidentally run into a couple of Viltrumites, which triggers them getting into a fight, obviously. And Conquest is there, and Oliver tries to fight him because he's overconfident as usual, and Oliver gets his butt kicked the entire time. and he's barely able to do any meaningful damage to any of the Viltrumites, and because he's such a liability, Omni-Man and Invincible have to constantly save him from getting killed. But other than that, the coalition continues to fight against the Viltrumites, and this is definitely the best scene in the episode, where we finally get to see the one-on-one battle between Conquest and Invincible. And by the way, Omni-Man's unable to help Invincible in his fight against Conquest because he constantly has to save Oliver from getting killed. So keep in mind that Invincible is basically all by himself for the majority of the fight. So the fight is as gory and as brutal as you would expect, and both of them are trading punches and trying to choke each other out. They're just trying to do anything that'll get them the upper hand over the other. And Invincible was struggling to get the upper hand at first, but then he actually starts winning for once. But if you watch the episode, you'll know that he was barely winning, and it was taking up 100% of his power just to choke out Conquest for a couple of minutes. And this was Invincible's game plan apparently, because once he has a hold of Conquest's throat, he just squeezes the entire battle. And Conquest is doing everything in his power to get away from Invincible's grasp, but Invincible is too strong for him, surprisingly. Conquest is literally about to die by being choked out, which doesn't really make sense because I know that Viltrumites can hold their breath for 2 weeks. So Conquest is literally about to die, so he pulls out the signature Viltrumite move and thrusts his fist into Invincible's stomach and tries to pull out all of his organs. It was honestly crazy to watch. It was extremely gory, but somehow after having his intestines pulled out and his kidneys, he still has enough strength left to completely choke out Conquest and kill him for good. But Mark is in critical condition after the fight, so he's gonna need some serious rehabilitation after this fight, which will somehow be enough to get him back to normal because of the Viltrumite healing factor. But yeah, that was the end of the episode. Besides Conquest getting killed, they didn't really make much of a dent, and Tech Jacket and Alan had to hide in the Viltrumite ship to avoid getting killed by them, which I guess is gonna be a cliffhanger for the next episode. But I gotta be honest, I don't really care about either of them. But yeah, that officially wraps up season 4 episode 5. It was another mid episode in my opinion. The first half of the episode really dragged it down because I really enjoyed the second half honestly, but the first half was just too depressing to watch. It really had me spurring out the amount of slander that Nolan had to deal with. But after this episode, I'm not gonna review anymore until the finale because I'm tired of talking about this show. I'm just gonna quickly review the finale and then I'm done with this show. I'm gonna review The Boys probably, but I already know it's gonna suck, so it's gonna be a lot more fun to review. But anyways, thanks for watching. Comment your opinion. Please don't be dumb in the comments. But yeah, see you next time.